morning, brothers and sisters. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Yes, what a beautiful day, huh? I tell you what, now, it doesn't get much better than this. This is good stuff. We've got some great hymns to sing this morning, so if you'll take your blueback hymnal from the pew rack in front of you and turn it to number 16. Oh, I love this hymn. Oh, worship the King. It gives us a description of who our God is. He is our King, our Savior, our Father. Let's sing all four stanzas here. Number 16, oh, worship the King. Oh, worship the King, all glorious above, and gratefully sing His wonderful love. Our shield and defender, the Ancient of Days, pavilioned in splendor and girded with praise. Oh, tell of His might, oh, sing of His grace, whose robe is the light, whose canopy space, His chariots of wrath the deep thunder clouds form, and dark is His path on the wings of the storm. Thy bountiful care, what tongue can recite? It breathes in the air, it shines in the light, it streams from the hills, it descends to the plain, and sweetly distills in the dew and the rain. Frail children of dust, and feeble as frail, in Thee do we trust, nor find Thee to fail. Thy mercies, how tender, how firm to the end, our Maker, Defender, Redeemer, and Friend. I love those descriptions there. Our Maker, Defender, Redeemer, Friend. That's who our God is. He's our King. That's right. Barry covers it all. That's right. Well, we've got another one here. It's number 409. He is the King who loves His children with a deep, deep love. And that's what number 409 says. Oh, the deep, deep love of Jesus. And this, in my opinion, this is one of the prettiest hymn tunes in the whole hymnal here. Let's sing all three stanzas. Number 409, oh, the deep, deep love of Jesus. Oh, the deep, deep love of Jesus, vast, unmeasured, boundless, free, rolling as a mighty ocean in its fullness over me. Underneath me, all around me, is the current of Thy love, leading onward, leading homeward to my glorious rest above. Oh, the deep, deep love of Jesus, spread His praise from shore to shore. How He loveth, ever loveth, changeth never, nevermore. lifts me up to glory, for it lifts me up to thee. Good singing. Oh, what a neat image in that song, that the love of Jesus is like the ocean, that deep current underneath us that surrounds us. I love that. I love that poetic imagery that we get there. One more hymn this morning, number 411, just a couple of pages over. This is a favorite. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. Let's sing the first and the last here of number 411. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to know thus saith the Lord. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, how I've proved him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more. I'm so glad I learned to trust him, precious Jesus, Savior, friend, and I know that he is with me, will be with me to the end. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, how I've proved him o'er and o'er. Jesus, Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more. Very good. I think that'll probably do it for us right there. But I tell you what, we can make up another verse. How about that? I like that. Hey, thank you so much, Miss Leon. I appreciate you very much. Well, aren't we blessed with some fantastic accompanists around here? I tell you what, now, there is not a church our size. I'm going to make a boast here, okay? But it's on your behalf, all right? So I think it's okay. I bet there's not a church our size anywhere around, maybe even in the state of Mississippi, that has the wonderful musicians that we have here. Singers. I tell you what, man, it makes my job fantabulous. It's good. It's good. Miss Leon is part of that. Thank you so much. Well, if you'll take your Saints Alive guide here, okay, and turn over on the back, I just want to let you know about a few announcements. And the first one really is right in line with the sentiment that we were just expressing. This Sunday night, we've got our next night of worship, our spring night of worship this Sunday night at 5:30. I'm excited, been working on the music for this, and we've got our big rehearsal tonight with our orchestra and choir and band and vocal team, and going to have a great trombonist. Yeah. We got a daughter deer over there going to blow the trombone for us. So we're excited about that. Stacy's part of our horn section. Stacy Chestnut is who I'm talking about here. Miss Donna and me were having a moment right there. Sorry. I should have been more explicit about who I was talking about. But yeah, we're going to have a great time on Sunday night, and so I hope you'll make your plans to be with us. We're going to sing a little bit of everything. We've got traditional hymns, we've got modern songs, we've got gospel songs, just a little bit of everything. And so be with us and bring a friend with you. Now you can see right in the middle of the page there that we've got our mission trips are on our church app and ready for you to sign up for. I want to bring your attention especially to the Fort Worth mission trip. We are working with a ministry called Beautiful Feet. Ministries in Fort Worth, and they help homeless people. And so if you'd like to be a part of that trip, we'd like to get you some information and get you signed up for that. You can see it's at the end of May, so it's right around the corner. In fact, the deadline is coming up pretty soon. Then we've got our Mexico trip in July, our New Orleans trip in November, and so we're excited about that. Now, related to our Mexico mission trip is a fundraiser on the morning of May the 3rd. And we're going to do something a little unique here. I like this. I think this is going to be a great idea. I think it's going to go well, and I think our people are going to literally, you ready for this? Eat it up. Yeah, that's right. I'll be here all week with dad jokes, okay? So Sunday, May the 3rd, at the beginning of the Life Group Hour, we're going to do what we're calling the Grab and Go Breakfast Fundraiser. I got to work on that before Sunday. A Grab and Go Breakfast Fundraiser. Now, what we're going to do is we'll have some tables set up in this building as well, and then also in the FLC building. So if your Sunday school class, or I'm sorry, your life group is up here in this building, then you don't have to go all the way down there. You can pick up a breakfast that they've got there, drop a little donation in the bag for Mexico Missions, and then head to life group. Easy peasy, right? Yeah. They'll also be doing the same thing down in the FLC. Okay? So we're excited about that. Let's see. And then one other, you can see the announcement there about the final Wednesday night meal. We give our kitchen crew a break for the summer, and boy, do they ever deserve it. Those folks work so hard and do a great job for us. So the last Wednesday night meal will be May the 13th. I think those are our announcements, so I'm going to turn it over to Brother Jim, who's going to bring the word to us.
I want to ask you this, and we'll just kind of start out with this. What are some of your favorite stories of the Old Testament? Just give me one that always stands out to you. That may be one of your favorites. David and Goliath sure is one of the top. If we had to rank them, that'd be at the top. What else? Oh yeah, we have Moses and being found in the bush there before he begins that whole realm. So that's a big one. What else? Come on, you know your Old Testament stories, huh? Ruth, yeah, the story of Ruth and just how she comes from just being a widower or being a widow and makes her way into this incredible role with Boaz. Anybody else? The fiery furnace of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yeah, and Daniel, for sure. What? Esther. Yeah, that story, for such a time as this, will stick with you all the way. Any others? You could probably go on and on. If you had to write them down, you could probably come up with some of your favorite ones. And a lot of these really stand out, and probably ones that we remember all the way through our earliest days of church and to the Sunday school years of sitting in class and listening to these stories and then just wowing us with just who God is and the greatness of all those things. Well, let me tell you, today is not one of those. I just want to set you up. It is not one of those. As a matter of fact, this would not be on your top 100 because of its, let's just put it this way, of its R rating, of its let's just display of sinfulness of man, of all the things that we see in the world today on display in the pages of the Bible. You know, one of the things that we just don't give the Bible enough credit, maybe sometimes, is its realism. It's what it is. I mean, it is life. It is. You open up the Word of God, and if you really want to look at it, man, you see a lot of things in there that you go, whoo, I think I'll pass over that and go back to Noah, or go back to something that's a lot more friendly to listen to. Because when you open up the Scripture, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you see all the things there. Obviously, through the good and the bad, the bad and the ugly, you see the good, which is God, which you see Christ, pointing to Christ. You see redemption, you see forgiveness, you see the plan of God coming through even that. But we have to see the realism in life as it really is oftentimes, and how God sometimes that we forget, oftentimes will use even the difficult and the sinfulness of man to accomplish his will. So I want us to look at this, and this just beware today, because 2 Samuel chapter 13 is not a fun one to walk through, but it is one that we don't need to pass over. It would be easy to say, you know what, let's pretend this is not here. Put our fingers in our ears and go, no, 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 and pretend it's not there and move on to something a lot more fun. But we have to deal with these kind of things because it illustrates too many things for us to see. I will say this, that once we begin to look at this chapter, we are able to very clearly see what Nathan told David after his affair with Bathsheba, that the sword would never leave your home. It's never going to leave that. In other words, what he is telling David, what God is telling David through Nathan, is that your family is going to be dysfunctional because of what you've done here. Sometimes we hope and pray that the sin that we commit will just easily be just forgotten, moving on. And yes, in God's heart, He forgives us, and the Lord is ready to redeem us and to restore us and to move us back. But we must never forget, and as I've mentioned before, our sin leaves a ripple effect. It leaves a ripple effect. Sometimes it affects family. Sometimes it affects other relationships. Sometimes it affects other parts of our life. We can never oftentimes lose or forget the effects of our sin and how it can affect so many people. And in David's life, it's going to affect greatly his family. His family is going to be as dysfunctional. And besides this sin with Bathsheba, why do you think so much dysfunction came into the household of David outside this affair with Bathsheba? Why do you think? Well, you have to almost go back to the beginning of when before David even begins to reign as king, he begins to take on many wives. And God has already said, you're not supposed to do that. And the more wives he has, and the more concubines or women that are in his household, he has more and more children with different mothers. And, when you have this many kids running around with so many different wives, there's no way you can be a father. There's no way you can be a true father to these. You can't grow them and begin to instill in them the moral fiber they need to have, the role of responsibility, how to keep in check, all these kind. You just can't do it. And so David is so focused on all these things. He's just having kids. He's having different wives come in. And as a result, because God had said, don't do this, it's leading to what's happening here. So many things are in play. So let's look at this and begin to walk through 2 Samuel chapter 13 and see what happened here. It says this, now sometime past, David's son Absalom had a beautiful sister named Tamar, and David's son Amnon was infatuated with her. Now we immediately are introduced to three specific individuals. We have Absalom, what do you remember about Absalom? Mostly his hair. That's right. His hair. Dude never cuts it, man. Let's just say he is a beautiful boy. This guy he is out of central casting. This guy, man, is movie star qualities about him. And so his hair is that way. Now, the other two you may not know a whole lot or remember a whole lot about, but I will tell you this. This is what their names mean if you look them up. Absalom, his name literally means his father's peace, which he's going to be anything but. Matter of fact, he's going to be a thorn to his dad. Amnon, his name means faithful and stable, and he's anything but faithful or stable. He's very unstable. And Tamar, which is the girl in the story, literally means palm tree, which signifies fruitfulness. And she will never be able to live up to that either because of what happens to her. So we see three individuals, and guess what? They're all related. And guess what? They all have three different mamas. And so they're all different. And well, maybe Absalom and Tamar have the same mama. They're more sister brother there. But Amnon's from a different mom, and so it's just a mess here. So what do we find out really quick about Amnon toward his half sister? I guess what's happening there? Very attracted to her. Says in my Bible's translation said he was infatuated with her. He thinks it's love, but what is it? It's lust. It's lust. He doesn't really love her. He's really going by what we see in the world today, what a lot of people forget what love really is, and they equate love and lust as the same thing. And so for them, especially when you don't have, and it can happen to people who follow Christ as well if we're not staying in touch with the Lord, but too often what the world describes to us, love and lust kind of work together, and it's not the truth at all. And so, but that's what Amnon is feeling here at this point. But look at verse 2. Amnon was frustrated to the point of making himself sick over his sister Tamar because she was a virgin, but it seemed impossible to do anything to her. Now, what does Amnon, obviously, what is his intentions? Maybe right immediately we don't see ill intentions. Maybe the idea of him wanting to marry her is in his mind, but can he marry his sister? No. According to the Old Testament, that's incest. You cannot marry your sister. And so he's got this infatuation over her. He's got this lust over her, and yet he cannot do anything. He can't go to her and say, I want to marry you. He can't go to the king because David would say, no, you can't do that. This is your sister. And so he's made himself sick. What's Amnon's problem right here? What's going on with him right here? Say it again. He wants something he can't have. It's the forbidden fruit, right? It's this idea of what we've heard all the way from the beginning. You remember what God told Eve and Adam not to eat? What? It was a forbidden fruit. It was, you can't have this. And so man has always been infatuated by what he can't have. And God can constantly say, and we talked about this even before with Bathsheba and Nathan coming in and saying, God was telling David, I gave you everything that you possibly want, but you didn't want that. You wanted what I didn't want you to have. You wanted the forbidden fruit out here, and yet man's eyes are always on what he often are on what he can't have, especially if he's not focused on the Lord, if he's not focused on what God has done for him. If we don't look at Christ, then we seem to focus on those things that we can't have. And so Amnon here, when he's not focused, certainly has no there seems to be no connection between him and the Lord here. He wants what he can't have, and he's made himself sick about it. Now, this is when someone needs to come around him, right? This is when he needs to have somebody in his life. A dad, for instance, needs to come around and say, well, let's talk about this, and begin to help him walk through this difficulty. But if he doesn't have a dad, he needs a godly friend, right? Someone who can come around him and kind of give him the proverbial, slap in the face and wake up, this is not right. You need to wake up and kind of get back in line again. But he doesn't have that either. But he does have a friend, but this dude is up to no good. Look what happens. It says this in verse 3. Amnon had a friend named Jonadab, a son of David's brother Shemaiah. Okay, here we go, another relative here. And Jonadab was a very shrewd man. What does this tell you about Jonadab? When it says he was a very shrewd man, is that a compliment? No. What do you tend to think of when you think of someone who is a shrewd man? Sneaky. What else? The morals, low morals. What else? Crafty. Guys who's in it for himself, a guy who's always trying to find an angle, a guy who's always trying to go, okay, if I can get this, maybe this will be good for me. And so a shrewd man almost makes me think of what our enemy, Satan, is about. Shrewd, trying to connive, trying to do something. And so this idea is really a setup for what's about to happen. Here's Amnon. He's in a very vulnerable position. He is in a position to where unless somebody comes in at just the right time and stops him, he's going to do something really evil. And so we've got to have something to block, something to come in here, especially if he's not connected to the Lord. He needs a godly person to give him a proverbial slap in the face to wake him up. But instead, he has a shrewd man as his friend. So this can only go bad. So look at what happens. So Jonadab was a very shrewd man. And he asked Amnon, why are you, the king's son, so miserable every morning? Won't you tell me, what is Amnon up to? What is Jonadab up to right here? All right, he's picking him, just trying to find out what's going on. What else is he doing? You ever have somebody that, and I'll probably mention this Sunday, so pretend you didn't hear it here this word. But you ever had somebody to flatter you? You know, they always said about flattery, is flattery what someone says to your face that they would never say behind your back. Isn't that interesting? They're going to say it to your face, but you won't hear them saying anything about it. So if they say, you are amazing, you are so good, you'll never hear them say that behind your back. You know, and so Jonadab is this guy that's saying really good things, and he's trying to get in, and he's trying to be very empathetic. Oh, brother, tell me what's going on. You look bad, man. Tell me what's happening. I'm here for you, brother. I'm all ears. Listen to me. So he wants to get in on the inside, but there's an angle to his story. So what's going on here? So Amnon comes out. He says, I'm in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. What does he not call Tamar? His sister. Yep. He calls it Absalom's sister. So he doesn't say anything about his connection with her as a half-sister. Verse 5, Jonadab gets into action. It says, so he said to them, I'll tell you what, lie down on your bed, pretend you're sick. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, and who is Amnon's father? David. When David comes to see you, say to him, please let my sister Tamar come, give me something to eat. Let her prepare food in my presence so I can watch and eat from her hand. This sounds a little bit, what? Yeah, a little risque here. I don't know this is a little, can you really be that sick? Maybe you can. This guy, he says, hey, when your dad comes, you just pretend you're sick. Pretend you just don't feel well at all. You can't even lift your hand to get you something to your food in mouth. Huh? You have seen someone? Yes, I cannot. Oh, you got to help me. You got to help me, please. And so put my socks on my feet. I can't do anything. And so it is just... It is just, you got to be the most. Now, listen, on this case, I can understand in some situations to where someone is very, very sick in this case. But Amnon, here's a healthy young man. He is a healthy boy. He is in the prime of his life. There's nothing wrong with this fella. And you can't be that sick, Amnon. You can't be that sick. But they say when David comes in, you tell him you are so helpless, you need your sister to come in. Now, why does he think that he could get away with David being able to do that? Why do you think he could fool David? Why do you think Jonadab thinks he could get David fooled so easily? What does this say about David and the way he dealt with his children? Huh? Not keeping up with what they're doing. What else? No discipline. No discipline at all. Just indulgent. And why would David be that, just let him get away with whatever?
Oh, go ahead. I got other things to do.
Well, he's busy. He got a lot of things going on. Now, who are you? Which one of my wives are you? I can't remember. Like when I was growing up, there was Carol Joy, there was John, there was Jimmy, who was me, and then there was Jeff. And Mom would sometimes look at me and she'd say, John, Jeff, Carol, Jimmy, come here. You know, after a while, it says, I forget your name, come here. And so I don't know, maybe David couldn't remember all the names. But you know what I think it was? Do you know why I think that Jonadab thought he could get away with this? It's because he knew David had a moral failure. And David would never be in the position, because there would always be this sense of what he did. How can I come and tell you what you shouldn't do because of my moral failure? And listen, this is a trap of the enemy, because every one of us in here, none of us are sinless. Every single one of us have been through our difficulties and have been through our failures. And at times, when a child of ours or a good friend of ours begins to fall into a trap or begins to go towards a way that they should not go, we feel like, well, who am I to say anything because of what I've done? Who am I to say something? And yet, it's the very time we need to come and say, listen, I know because I failed. I know what can happen because I went through this kind of situation. I messed up. I blew it. Yes, God has forgiven me. God has helped me to restore me. But you know what? I know what happens to someone who walks down that road. Sometimes the most effective testimony is based on, man, I have walked that road and I know the destruction that comes as a result. But oftentimes the enemy will tell us, don't say anything, because you who are you to say something about that? So especially family, because they know our warts and all, don't they? They know our warts and all. And so, but Jonadab says, this will get David. Oh man, I've watched him. He lets y'all get away with anything. He's not gonna say anything to you. Just tell him. Just tell him you want Tamar. He'll be fine with that. So what happens? So sure enough, verse 6, Amnon follows that advice. And man, did he ever need a godly friend to wake him up and say, buddy, you're talking about your sister here. There are plenty of ladies out here that would love to have you as a husband. Let's walk it. Come on, let's just get out in the country. Let's ride some horses. Let's just get out of here for a little bit. Forget about this. But instead, he follows the advice. And look at verse 6. So Amnon lay down. He pretended to be sick. And when the king came to see him, here comes David. Amnon said to him, please let my sister Tamar come, make a couple of cakes in my presence so I can eat from her hand. Oh, my gracious. And verse 7, what did David do? Anything you want, my boy. So David sent word to Tamar at the palace, please go to your brother Amnon's house, prepare a meal for him. Well, it's all been set up. Now, at this point, Amnon already has in mind what he wants to do. Now, from his perspective, he probably thinks Tamar's going to go along with it. He probably thinks everything's going to be fine, but it's going to get bad. It's going to get worse. Look at verse 8. So Tamar went to his house while Amnon was lying down. She took dough, kneaded it, made cakes in his presence, and baked them. That had to take a while, didn't it? Then what happens? She brought the pan and set it down in front of him, but he refused to eat. Amnon said, everyone leave me. And everyone left him. Why did he say that? Tamar probably at that point said, see you later, I'm going with them. But what is Amnon? Why does he want everybody out of the room? No witnesses, right? No witnesses. And here, we're at a point to where the story begins to get so dark, you hate to even read on. You wish at this point it could stop. Tamar would speak and he would come to his senses. But it's amazing what happens when you are not walking in the Spirit. If you're not walking with Christ, the darkness of your mind and sin can get so bad you cannot even see truth anymore. It almost blinds you to what's right. And we've seen many people, including ourselves, who have walked a road and instead of obeying the obvious signs that are there, don't do this, don't walk this way. If y'all remember years ago, and you don't see them as much now, occasionally you will, but when you would ride along a highway and you would see a sign and it would say something like, so and such coming up. Then you would see another sign. Hey, only a few miles. Hey, don't forget to stop. And so it was just a sign after sign after sign telling you what's about to come. And they were just asking you to pull over and to come in. Well, in a lot of ways, I think what God does is he continues to give us signs. Hey, don't do this. Hey, I know the next exit is where you want to go, but keep going, Don't walk this way. And God continually tells us, but too often, what our darkness of our mind, when we're not in the Spirit, can cause us to be so blinded by truth that all we can think is what we want. And you know, this is really what the evil one is. The evil one wants to put in us such a blindness, and wants to say it is all about me. Because if you look at the beginning of Satan's existence in heaven, it was always all about himself, but attaining this throne, attaining this, and he instills that in man as well. And so Amnon was at this point. And so what happens? He tells everyone to leave, and then everyone left. And look at verse 10. And he said, "Bring me the meal to the bedroom," Amnon told Tamar, "so I can eat from your hand." And Tamar took the cake she had made and went to her brother Amnon's room. And when she brought them to him to eat, he grabbed her and said, "Come sleep with me, my sister." It makes it even more brutal of what he called her at this point. And again, he's not even thinking right in his right mind. As a matter of fact, he's almost gloating to the fact that there's no barrier big enough to keep me from what I want, even you as my sister. There is nothing that's beyond what I want. And this is an indication of an individual who's gotten everything he's ever wanted. He's the firstborn of David, which tells you what? Being the firstborn of the king is what? Means you're first in line to the throne. And so Amnon has received everything. No one's ever told Amnon no. No one has ever said you can't have whatever you want. And so Amnon is used to getting whatever he wants, and he thinks, just like any other time, I'm going to get what I want. And there's no barrier. Even if I call you my sister, there's no barrier big enough to get what I want. So, absolutely. Listen, you're exactly right. She is a pawn in the story. She is being obedient to her father. She is doing what he's asked her to do. She's in a service mentality. I want to serve because as far as she knows, he really is sick. And so she wants to serve, she wants to be, and she wants to do all the right things as a individual should. And man, her life is going to be destroyed because of her obedience. So what happens here? And so she tries to reason with him, which you can't reason with an unreasonable man, can you? We remember this from the very beginning of 1 Samuel, that when Saul got so off on his own tangents, you couldn't reason with Saul. And so now here we are, and we've got Amnon. You cannot reason with a person who is so dark and so focused on what he wants, and there's nothing or no one that can tell him no. And so she begins to try to reason with him, and she cries out in verse 12, "Don't, my brother, don't humiliate me, for such a thing should never be done in Israel. Don't do this horrible thing. Where could I ever go with my disgrace? And you would be like one of the immoral men in Israel. Please speak to the king, for he won't keep me from you." What are her arguments? How is she trying to reason with him? What does she say? Tell me just one of the things she tells him. Calls him brother. It's almost like a wake-up call. Remember, we're kin. This will be incest, and according to the Old Testament law, incest results in death. Come on, my brother, don't do this. Wake up from this. What else does she say? It's the last of all the excuses, or not excuses. The last of all the reasons that she tries. Now, let me ask you this. She says the king would not, what does she say? The king would not keep me from you. What do you think David would say? I don't think he would have said yes. But why is she saying that? Trying to get away. Absolutely. It is almost her last gasp of, listen, the king will be okay with this. He'll be okay with this. and she's trying to get out the door. Maybe he would think, well, you know what, you're right. Let me just go on. We'll keep from this. Let me just go ask David. But she's just trying to figure a way out. But she also says, number one, what could I do with my shame? If you go through with this, I will be shamed forever. So she tries to make this, don't do this to me, because this, when she realized that's not working, then she looked at him and says, but you would be a fool. Everybody would know what you've done, and everybody will see you as a fool. You don't want that kind of reputation, do you? So she turns from herself to him. That doesn't work. Then she says, go ask Dad. Go ask Dad. And he wouldn't keep, but that's her last resort. Maybe he'll listen to that and I can get out. But what happens? Verse 14 is the most tragic of all the verses. But he refused to listen to her. Because he was stronger than she was, he raped her. This is one of those things that we would love to pass over. This is one of those stories that we wish we did not have to view. But it's an indication of what happens in the darkness of men's hearts, but also that it has its beginnings if you go backwards. You go backwards and you see David, a man after God's own heart, if he had only stayed the course, if he had only stayed focused on the Lord, if he had only seen, okay, I see Bathsheba down there, but I'm turning my eyes, I'm going back into the palace, and you know what I need to do? I need to go back and fight, get back on the battlefield, because I could be so easily tempted. He should have, if David had only at that moment, maybe, just maybe, this moment may never have happened. It's always a ripple effect that happens, and I'm not saying that every time we sin, it's going to affect a family in this way. But because of David's position and because of David, his willingness to disgrace God because of what he wanted, the prophecy was, it's never going to leave your house. And so this is the first indication of what's happening in the dysfunction of the family. There are always going to be ripple effect and consequences to our sin. What happens as a result? Surely at this moment, you know, you have to go back in the Old Testament and you see a few verses. I'll see if I can find this one really quickly. I think it's Deuteronomy chapter 22. Listen to this. This was the law of Moses. God foresaw this happening. In Deuteronomy chapter 22, law of Moses, God gives this to Moses. Listen to what these verses say, chapter 22, verses 28 and 29. If a man encounters a young woman, a virgin who is not engaged, hashtag Tamar, and takes hold of her and rapes her, and they are discovered, the man who raped her must give the young woman's father 50 silver shekels, and she must become his wife because he violated her. He cannot divorce her as long as he lives. And so immediately there is a connection because of this. There is, hey man, you've done wrong. Now, I cannot imagine this would be a very happy household. I cannot imagine that going forward this would be but this was God's way of taking care of women even in their vulnerability. It was God's way of saying, listen, if this were to happen to you, I'm going to take care of you. Now, a man who is not listening to God and has no desire for God, he has no desire for God's law. Look at what happens after this. Verse 15. And after this, Amnon hated Tamar with such intensity that his hatred he hated her with was greater than the love he had loved her with. Get out of here, he said. How can that turn that quickly? What's that? So wrong, so evil. No doubt about it. Self-loathing, just the guilt of what he's just done. Every time he looked at her from now on, it would be a reminder of what he's done. It was a sickness that had gone, just that sin disease that had just so taken over him. And now there's this, it was really an indication that this was never love in the first place, right? This was never a love for her. It was lust all the way. And now that he had conquered what he had wanted to conquer, he didn't want it anymore. And so it was a push away. It was now to get he just wanted her out of his sight. Well, at this point, she comes back and she speaks truth to him. Verse 16, "No," she cried, "sending me away is much worse than the great wrong you've already done to me." But he refused to listen to her. Instead, he called to the servant who waited on him, "Throw this woman," it's no longer a sister, it's no longer anything, it's this woman, "out and bolt the door behind her." And Amnon's servant threw her out, bolted the door behind her, and now Tamar was wearing a long-sleeved garment. This was the garment of a princess that indicated her virginity, indicated her purity, indicated her life of privilege. Because this is what the king's daughters would wear, and Tamar put ashes on her head, tore the long-sleeved garment she was wearing, and she put out her hand on her head and went away crying out. Everybody who saw her would know what? Something had happened grievously to her. Something tragic would have happened to her. She's torn the sleeves that indicated she was no longer a virgin. She's thrown ashes of grief and mourning on herself, putting her hand on her head, another sign that she was just overwhelmed with the grief of what had happened. Everybody who would see her would go, "What in the world has happened to David's daughter?" And before long, this word would begin to get out. So what happens? Her brother Absalom enters the story. Absalom, in verse 20, her brother Absalom said to her, "Has your brother Amnon been with you?" Why would he immediately single out Amnon? Why would he know this? He probably had heard the story, right? It probably trickled down into the family. Man, Amnon thinks Tamar, man, he really loves old Tamar. He probably would have heard it. And then he put two and two together. Now remember, Absalom, very smart dude. I mean, he's going to be a bad dude, but he can read a room. Let's put it that way. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows exactly what's happening. So he looks at his sister. He says, "Has Amnon been with you? Come on, be honest. Has your brother Amnon been with you?" And look at when he realized, he doesn't have to even get an answer. He knows immediately it's the truth. And he tells her, "Be quiet for now, my sister. He's your brother. Don't take this thing to heart." And so Tamar lived as a desolate woman in the house of her brother Absalom. What is he telling Tamar to do? What do you think he's telling her to do? Maybe telling her to forget about it, maybe. What do you think? I think exactly right. I think, what Carol said is, I think he's telling her, "Don't make a big deal about this. I'll handle it. And you can count on it. Now, I don't know if that actually soothes the grief in her heart. No, I doubt it, because now she's going to live as a desolate woman the rest of her life. She's unmarriable in a sense. She's not one that's going to have much of a future in that sense, and that's got to cause her a lifetime of grief because of what's happened to her. But Absalom says, your big brother will take care of you. You just live with me. I'll take care of you from here on out. But that's not all he's going to do. But here's David, and the story just gets more and more sad. Look at verse 21. "And when King David heard about all these things, he was furious. And Absalom didn't say anything to Amnon, either good or bad, because he hated Amnon since he disgraced his sister Tamar." What does it say about David here? David, what was his response? He was angry. And what else? Nothing. He was angry, and that's it. I would love, well, let me just ask you this. What would you love to have seen right here? He was angry and what? Yeah. Yeah, he immediately came to Amnon and he handled it, and he took care of it and said, but why did David feel like he was not able to do that? All goes back to where he was. And yes, God had forgiven him. God had restored the throne back to him. God had done above and beyond to David. But that ripple effect, that lack of that moment? Yeah, maybe he continued to remember those words might have continued to echo in his heart. You're the man, David. You're the man, David. You're the man, David. David remembers this moment and that lack of that. Hey, who am I to go to my son to tell him what you did was wrong? But he could have. He could have said, hey, because I know the extent of my disobedience, you're going to deal with it as well, and it's going to be, and so you're going to have to be disciplined. There's too many things that have gone wrong here, and so, but instead he did not do a thing about it. But Absalom didn't say anything to Amnon, either good or bad, because he hated Amnon. He was going to wait. He was going to wait. So we get to verse 23. We got to hurry through these last verses, but look at this, verse 23. 2 years later, what does that tell you about Absalom? Patient. I'm going to wait till my time. It's going to come. I'm going to wait my time. Look what he does. Absalom's sheep shearers were at Baal-hazor near Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons. And then he went to the king and said, your servant has just hired sheep shearers. Will the king and his servant please come with your servant? The king replied to Absalom, no, my son, we should not all go, or we would be a burden to you. And although Absalom urged him, he wasn't willing to go, though he did bless him. So David says, nah, I'm not going to go to the celebration. You go. All of us come and be a little bit too much for you. You just enjoy the celebration there. And so the king, so Absalom said, well, if not, please let my brother Amnon go with us. Should have been a little clue there. David knew the history, right? He knew what had gone on there with Amnon, and he asked, why should he go with you? But Absalom urged him. What does it say about David? What should he have said? Absalom, too much history between you guys. Nah, let's just keep y'all separated. Too much could go wrong. Wrong word, something could happen. Let's just keep this separate. But instead, he was like, okay, son. Let's send him. So he sends Amnon and lets him go. Verse 28. Here we go. The plot happens. Then Absalom commanded his young men, I want you to watch Amnon until he's in a very good mood from the wine. And when I order you to strike Amnon, then kill him. Don't be afraid. And I'm not the one who has commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Boy, those are the words you heard God saying to Joshua. Those are the words that you go all the way back to where God said, hey, you go into battle because the Lord is with you. You be strong and courageous. And now Absalom is using those words to commit a horrendous act. Be strong and courageous. And so Absalom's young men did to Amnon just as Absalom had commanded. Then all the rest of the king's sons got up and each fled on his own mule. And while they were on the way, a report reached David. Absalom struck down all the king's sons. Not even one of them survived. And in response, the king stood up, tore his clothes, and lay down on the ground, and all his servants stood by with their clothes torn. What did David first hear? All his sons are dead. It's amazing how over a few miles, how that story can go from one to, hey man, every son that you've had is dead. And so enter good old boy Jonadab, who's always looking for an end. Remember, he was Amnon's best friend. Now Amnon's dead, but he's hanging out with David now. I'm a shrewd guy. How can I get in with David? So what happens? Verse 32, and Jonadab, son of David's brother Shemaiah, spoke up. My Lord must not think that they've killed all the young men, the king's sons, because only Amnon is dead. In fact, Absalom has planned this ever since the day Amnon disgraced his sister Tamar. So now, my lord the king, don't take seriously the report that says all the king's sons are dead. Only Amnon is dead. What is Jonadab doing here? He's kind of telling it all, ain't he? He has no loyalties. It is really only about Jonadab. You can kind of see, man, the threads of this story. There is so much here. Everybody's in it for themselves. Everybody's about themselves. Everybody's about how I can get in. What do I get? How would I get what I need? If I'm Amnon, I want Tamar. There's no barrier to getting him, to getting her. If I'm Absalom, because of what Amnon did, I'm going to kill my brother, and there's no barrier that's going to keep me. If I'm Jonadab, Jonadab, I'm going to just go wherever. I'm going to float with where the wind's going. And because wherever that wind ends, I'm going to get what I want. And here's David. And where does David find himself? Flat on his face, clothes torn, weeping. It's such an amazing picture, and it's an amazing picture of what happens when sin runs rampant, what ends up happening. It's a picture of just destruction, of sadness, of just what sin always leads us to. And this is the way it's always been. Here's Eve holding a fruit, and the enemy says, oh man, God knows what it'll do. It's okay. It's going to be really for your benefit. Just take a bite. I know what God said, but did he really say that? Take it, and God knows you'll be just like him. It'll be great. It'll be wonderful. All your hopes and dreams are right there in your hand. Just take a bite. And every part of this story, from the way David, when he first saw Bathsheba, to all the way to this point, it's all about, hey, just take what's in your hand and take a bite. And the enemy is always asking us, hey, look outside God's will, because he's keeping that from you. Don't you know? He's keeping that from you. The enemy always tries to convince us, and more people, unless you're walking in the Spirit, unless you're walking with Christ, you're going to always look out of God's will for us. And so what happens? Look at the very last part. It says this in verse 34, meanwhile Absalom fled. When the young man who was standing watch looked up, there were many people coming from the road west of him from the side of the mountain. And Jonadab said to the king, look, the king's sons have come. It's exactly like your servant said. Hey, remember me? Remember me? And just as he finished speaking, the king's sons entered and wept loudly. And then the king and all his servants also wept bitterly. Now Absalom fled and went to Tamar, son of Ahimaaz, I guess, son of Geshur. You know why he went there? The king of Geshur was his mama's dad. He's going back home. Going back home. And David mourned for a son every day, and Absalom had fled and gone to Geshur, where he stayed 3 years. And the king David longed to go to Absalom, for David had finished grieving over Amnon's death. And here we go on and on. Instead of wanting to discipline his son, Absalom, it's, oh, Absalom, come on, we'll forget it. We'll forget it. David hadn't learned much yet. And still, the worst is yet to come, as much as you hate it. But let's end on a good note here. Let's end on a good note, as if we can, and we can. No matter the chaos, no matter the dysfunction, God would never allow us to see what happened here if there wasn't a bigger part of this. And that's this, is that even through the chaos, even through what seems to be no hope, hopelessness and helplessness, God's will still will happen. God is still sovereign over all. God can look at a world full of sin and say, you know what, I'm going to send my son, and he's going to come down, and he's going to die, and he's going to redeem you. He's going to buy you back from sin, and he's going to restore you. And yes, in this world of chaos and sin, it's the way that the world has come because of man's sinfulness. It has come the way it is here. But God says, but I'm going to still get my will done. It's still going to be this way. And people are going to come to know Christ, and people are going to continue to be redeemed, and we're still going to find hope in the hopelessness. And so in the midst of what we see around us, we can never get so hopeless to think that God is still not sovereign on his throne, right? He's still in control, even in the midst of this. There's still pain to come for David, but God will continue to be sovereign through it all. Okay, let's pray. Father, we are just thankful for your word, just thankful for your goodness and your kindness. And Lord, in the midst of our sinfulness, we know that we have hope through the Savior. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you for the hope that we have in him. Thank you for the redemption and forgiveness of sin that he offers us. And Lord, I just pray that we'll keep our eyes on you. For we ask it all in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Brother Jim. Appreciate you. And for those who've been with us on Facebook and YouTube, God bless you. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next Wednesday.